This video, I'll spell it out to a T in a way that even a child could understand. First of all, we must understand the difference between a king and a peasant. Demos means people or peasant. Democracy, right? Demonocracy, demon. Demos, D-I-M-O-S, the deity of terror. All these things are related. Long ago, people used to gather together and harass people in cults, and there was a need for a just king, as there is today. People still get together, they harass each other, the alt-right, Antifa, the Democratic, the Republican Party, the Libertarians. They're basically big mobs of people that harass people and for a political cause. They cause stalk people, they harass people, they cheat people, they only hire their own, and so on and so forth. So this has been going on forever, and everyone knows that a fair monarch is preferred. In fact, in a predominantly Christian culture in America, certainly the idea of a king of kings is not a democratic idea. There's God, there's his son, there isn't a democracy. Okay, so even in the country that propounds democratic values the most, there's this kind of absence of a logical argument as to why the one righteous man isn't preferred to the mob. Now he can consider this, and even in America there's a president, we can go on and on about that, but I'm pretty sure you agree with me on this point, or you're insane. So let us then consider the idea of King David. In Psalms 89, God exalts King David. He's the most exalted of all the kings of the earth, is how it's described. He is the most exalted king of the earth, the King of Kings. So let's stop right there. King David is the most exalted of all the kings of the earth. He's basically the King of Kings. That is what it's referring to. When it said, here is Jesus, the King of the Jews on the cross, or whatever it said, the Jews are mad and say, write something else. And Pilate said, what I have written, I have written. Something like that. What I've said, or what I've written, I have written. Why did he say that? Well, because he didn't want to argue with these people about this thing. And he also believed, as far as principle, the Jews were acting like bitches, and this guy was acting like their true king. And of course, he's a man who commands military regiments, right? He's not Caesar. He is sort of like an officer in the Roman government, okay? Governor, whatever you want to call it, but you see him in popular culture, he's dressed like a military man. So when you look at these things, right, the sword of the king and everything, right? Jesus came to bring a sword, right? He came to help you understand who is the King of Kings. Also in Psalm 89, God talks about how he's going to always honor King David's royal line, and they'll be before him on the throne like the sun. Specifically, the sun. Okay. The Lord thy God is a sun and shield. Malachi 4, the sun of righteousness. I went over the other day the scriptures on the wall, like Psalm 119, Proverbs 13. Psalm 119, 105, Proverbs 13, 9, Proverbs 6, 23, 25, Proverbs 20, 27, Matthew 5, 15, and the parable of the 10 virgins. Okay. All about the lamps and the sun. I connected it effectively. I suggest you watch that video. It has the picture on the screen of, the still image is the picture on the wall, my handwriting on the wall. Okay. So, the paper on the wall. Okay. So let us understand the difference between a great warrior and a pacifist. Noah's Ark. Okay. It's scrambled. It is on A's Ra C, or also Hon A, Hones, or Hones A. Rasi for the ark. Okay. It goes back to Genesis 41:45, Potiphera and Joseph. Okay. So that being clear, the pacifists, the craftsmen like Demetrius in Acts 19, these guys aren't the great warriors. Okay. They're not in the Spirit of God. The Spirit of God is a warrior spirit. Jesus came to bring a sword and not a trowel, not a compass. He emphasized the sword. The stone the builder rejected, he's not the builder himself. Exodus 18:3, the Lord is a warrior. The Lord is his name. The Lord is a warrior. Don't get it twisted. The Lord is his name. Psalms goes on and on about God inspiring David and helping David and the Jews fight other people. Jeremiah 24, but the Lord is with me like a mighty warrior. So the Lord is with him. So the Lord is a warrior. The Lord is with me like a mighty warrior. We get Psalm 89. I have bestowed strength on a warrior. I have bestowed strength on him. So God gave him the strength. God is with me. This is the strength inside of him. This is the spirit that forged him. In Kung Fu, you have chi energy. In Christian, the idea of a Christian warrior is that God's spirit is in him. And the Christian warrior in his true form is an African martial artist. Jesus walks through the crowd. He avoids stoning, and so on and so forth. Okay, they try to push him off a cliff, where he talks about Elijah and Elisha, and the Jews get furious. Okay, fasting, Godspeed. I go over this in the key reasons on the top martial arts playlist times 10. Okay, so he's the Christian guy. The Christian king is a martial artist. Okay, he's an African hero martial artist. You know. So we go to James. Okay, James, I believe it's either James 5. I don't have it on the wall, or James 1, and he says, "Behold the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields. Behold the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth. And the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of the Sabbath." It goes back to the 10 Commandments. You know, you will have no other God but me, okay? And that thou shalt not steal. So every Christian should know times infinity that it is wrong to cheat someone like me out of his rightful place. You're better off stealing all the money in the world than cheating me out of my rightful place as the top martial artist. The admiration of potential wives, the reproductive cycle. Okay, King Solomon had 600 wives, 200 concubines, something like this. Okay, so I'm not saying I should have all that, but certainly they've cheated me on such a profound level that nobody is allowed to reproduce and to be right with God. Nobody. Nobody's allowed to live after I'm gone and be right with God. Nobody. Okay, because they're being led by animals. Okay, animals goes back to the wordplay animus, L. When you scramble the words, animus means spirit. It is the pagan spirit that they live in. You will have no other gods. You can't snake this guy, which is what they've been trying to do for generations. Why do you think the Jews tried to kill Jesus? They're trying to control reproduction and trade. Okay? They were the ones that people looked up to, that people asked, that people saw as God's representatives, and therefore they got some of the most attractive women as their wives. There is no excuse for that kind of treachery. They should all be put to death. I go as far as to say anyone from an Abrahamic faith who is a martial artist should be the first to die for what they have done to me. Their religions and their systems all point to me and to obedience to me. Not to half-ass, but I'm doing this, not putting your family first. You know, nobody who's religious should put their family before God. How despicable is that? Nobody who trains to be a warrior, a martial artist, which is really a warrior, should put their family before obedience to the top martial artist who represents the Spirit of God, the heavens. That is ridiculous. There is no excuse for that extreme cowardice. People used to get shot in war for leaving the battlefield. Much less, think about how much more they should be punished for defying God. They should be immediately killed for their treachery. Moving on. Psalm 19 talks about the heavens declare the glory of God. It says the sun is a tent, also refers to it as a chamber of God. And God is the bridegroom, or God's son is the bridegroom coming out. And it talks about how it uses the word champion to describe the Spirit of God, the one in the Spirit of God. It is the champion, okay? The bridegroom and the champion. That also goes back to the parable of the 10 virgins and the lamp and what scale they should use. No female should be allowed to date, much less reproduce with somebody who's not submitting to the Lord. Not a single female should be allowed to do that. That is despicable. The scale they're supposed to use is a scale of declaring the glory of God, which requires elevating me. If they're not elevating me, they are not declaring the glory of God, but the glory of the devil. And quite often they pray, these so-called Christians and Muslims and Jews, and so they pray before meals, a lot of them, right? They go to church and they pray, okay? What they're doing is, while they're doing something wrong, they are praying to the devil to elevate them. There is no excuse for that kind of pathetic cowardice. There is no excuse for pretending that you're a better man than I am. There is no excuse for pretending even for a moment that you can connect to God without connecting through me. God said about Jesus, this is my son, listen to him. Jesus said, I came to bring a sword. I came to give the sword to the true king of the Jews. I am the true king of the Jews. I am the true king of kings. By default, I am the king of the Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims, the king of kings. The king of Judah, Ra day, Judah, not unite, Judah. Okay. No one gets to God but by the king he has appointed. God has appointed me to determine who goes to heaven, okay, and only those who obey me, except for my parents, only those who obey me go to heaven with the exception of my parents because they're the blameless one. When my dad married my mother, they became one flesh. Nobody else has any excuse to not obey me. So the Son of Righteousness, and I also say this, mind you, with all the work, all the good acts that my dad has done. He has built a lot of good faith with God, and he has done so as the father of the king. Okay, so there is no, it's open and shut in my mind. And I don't see how it can be any other way. And go ahead and make your arguments if you want in the comments, So, of course, in Malachi, which goes back to male A, chi, or male A, si, high. Okay, it is where the energy of man comes into contact with the Spirit of God, when his mind goes into the right place, and he comes into sync with God in the divine order. How can you steal? Right, it's right there in the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not steal. How can you cheat me by fraud, by illusion, by propaganda, by marketing, by confusion, by misdirection, by